Chapter 1. An Educational Opportunity. It was midnight, and only one light was on in all the homes on Sycamore Drive. In the second-story window of Dr. Robert Gordon's house was a shadow that moved back and forth. It was his stepson, Connor Bailey, pacing around his bedroom. He had known for months he was going to Europe, but had waited until the night before his departure to pack. Reruns of a dramatic television show set in outer space did nothing to stop his procrastination. There was just something about a female captain piloting her crew away from an evil alien race that couldn't take his eyes off. But looking up at his clock and realizing he only had 7 hours before he needed to be at the airport forced him to turn the television off and focus on packing. "Let me think," Connor said to himself. "I'll be in Germany for 3 days, so I'll probably bring 12 pairs of socks." He confidently nodded and tossed a dozen pairs of socks in a suitcase. You never know, there could be a lot of puddles in Europe. Connor retrieved 10 or so pairs of underwear from his dresser and laid them out on his bed. It was more than he needed, but a dramatizing sleepover in kindergarten that ended in a wet bed had taught Connor to always be generous when packing underwear. "Okay, I think I have everything," Connor said, and he counted the items in his suitcase. "I got 7 t-shirts, 4 sweaters, my lucky rock, 2 scarves, my other lucky rock, underwear, socks, pajamas, my lucky poker chip, and my toothbrush." He looked around the room, wondered what else a kid could need in Europe. "Oh, pants," Connor said, thankful that he remembered. "I need pants." Once he had the missing and vital articles to his suitcase, Connor sat at the edge of his bed and took a deep breath. A big boyish smile came to his face. He couldn't help it. He was excited. At the end of the previous school year, Connor's principal, Mrs. Peters, had called him into his office to present him with a very exciting opportunity. "Am I in trouble?" Connor said when he sat in front of her desk. "Mr. Bailey, why would you ask me that every time I call you into my office?" she said, eyeing him over the top of her glasses. "Sorry, old habits die hard, I guess," he shrugged. "I've called you in here for 2 reasons," Mrs. Peters said. "First, I want to know how Alex is acclimating to her new school in, where is it again? Vermont?" Connor gulped and his eyes grew very big. "Oh," he said. Sometimes he forgot about the lie his family had told his school about her sister. "She's doing great. Never been happier." Mrs. Peters bit her lip, nodded, almost disappointed to hear this. "That's wonderful. Good for her," she said. "Although sometimes I selfishly wish she would move back and be one of our students again. Her mother was telling me all about the educational programs they offer up there, though I'm sure she is enjoying them." "Sure she is," Connor said, and looked to his left to avoid eye contact. "And Alex always loved trees and maple syrup, so Vermont suits her." "I see," Mrs. Peters squinted. "And she's staying with your grandmother, is that correct?" "Yes, she's still with my grandmother, who also loves trees and maple syrup." "It's a family trait, I guess," Connor said, and then looked to the right. He panicked for a second when he couldn't remember which direction people tend to look when they were lying. He had seen a special about it on TV. "Then give her my warmest regards, and please tell her to visit next time she's in town," Mrs. Peters said. "I will," Connor said, relieved to be changing the subject. "Now, on the second reason I called you in here today." Mrs. Peters sat up extra straight in her seat and slid a pamphlet across the desk. "I have just heard exciting news about an old colleague of mine who teaches English in Frankfurt, Germany. Apparently the University of Berlin has uncovered a time capsule that belonged to the brothers Grimm. I'm assuming you remember who they are from my lessons in 6th grade." "Are you kidding?" "My grandma knew them," Connor said. "Excuse me?" Connor just stared at her for a moment, mortified by his carelessness. "I mean, yeah, of course I remember," Connor tried to cover. "They're the fairy tale guys, right? My grandma used to read their stories to us." "Indeed," Mrs. Peters said with a smile. She had grown so used to Connor's strange outbursts that she didn't even question him this for a second. And according to the University of Berlin, 3 brand new fairy tales were discovered in the time capsule. That's amazing, Connor said, genuinely excited to hear this, and knew his sister would be thrilled too. I agree, Mrs. Peters said, and even better, the University of Berlin is planning a big event to reveal the stories. They're going to read them to the public for the first time this coming September, 3 weeks into the school year at St. Matthias Kirchhoff Cemetery, where the brothers Grimms are buried. All great things, Connor said. What does this have to do with me? Well, since you've become a bit of a Grimm yourself. Connor awkwardly laughed and looked back at who was left. She had no idea how close to home this compliment was. I thought you'd be interested in the trip I'm planning, Miss Peters said. Led the pamphlet even closer to Connor. I've decided to select a few select students, such as yourself. Students have proven to be passionate about writing and storytelling, to venture with me to Berlin and be among the crowd that hears the stories for the first time. Connor picked up the pamphlet and stared down at it with an open mouth. That sounds awesome. He flipped it open and looked at the attractions the city of Berlin had to offer. Could we check out these nightclubs too? Unfortunately, missing more than 1 week of school from any trips is frowned upon by the school district, so no nightclubs, I'm afraid. We'll be only there for 3 days, but I thought this might be an opportunity you wouldn't want to miss, Miss Peters said with a confident smile. I feel like a little piece of history is waiting for us. Connor's smile faded when his eyes fell to the bottom of the pamphlet. He saw how much the trip would cost. This is a pricey educational opportunity, Connor said. Travel is never cheap, I'm afraid, Mrs. Peters said, but there are many school fundraisers I can get you information about. Oh, wait, I keep forgetting my mom's married to a doctor. But we're not poor anymore, Connor said, and the smile returned. But wait, does that mean I'm still poor? I'll have to ask them. There's so much to the stepson thing I haven't figured out yet. Miss Peters raised her eyebrows and blinked twice, not sure what to tell him. That's a conversation you'll have with them, but my office phone number is at the bottom of the pamphlet. If you need help convincing them, she said with a quick wink. Thanks, Mrs. Peters, Connor said. Who else have you asked? Only a handful of students, Miss Peters said. I've learned the hard way that bringing more than 6 students to one chaperone on a trip led to a scene out of Lord of the Flies. I understand, Connor said. He couldn't get the image out of his head of tribal 6th graders tying Miss Peter to a spit and roasting her over an open fire. But Bree Campbell has signed up, Miss Peters said. I believe she's in Miss York's English class with you. Connor could feel his heart rate racing. His cheeks went red, and he pursed his lips to hit a smile. Oh, good, he said softly, while his inside voice would scream, oh my gosh, Bree Campbell is going to Germany. That's amazing. That's the best news ever. She's quite the talented writer herself. I can imagine the two of you get along nicely, Miss Peters said, oblivious to Connor's increasing pulse. I hope you'll be able to join us. You should head back to class now. Connor nodded as he got to his feet and continued nodding all the way back to his biology class. He didn't understand why the room always seemed to get warmer every time he saw or heard someone mention Bree Campbell. He wasn't even sure how he felt about her, but for whatever reason, Connor always looked forward to seeing her around and really want her to like him. He couldn't explain it no matter how much thought he gave it, but one thing was certain, Connor had to go to Germany. Telling his mom and stepdad after school went as well as Connor could have imagined. It's a really great educational opportunity, Connor stressed. Germany is a really super smart place with a lot of history. I think some kind of war happened there at some point. Can I go? Shawty and Bob sat on the couch in front of him looking over the pamphlet. They both had just gotten home from working at the children's hospital and hadn't even had time to change out their scrubs before they were attacked by a very enthusiastic Connor. This seems like a great trip, Charlotte said. Dad would have been so excited to hear about the Brothers Grimm's time capsule. I know, which is why I need to go, so I can experience it for all of us. Please, can I go, he asked, bouncing in little hops. Whenever Connor asked them for something, he acted like a hyper chihuahua. They only hesitated for a second, but Connor felt like it was an hour. Oh, come on! Alex gets to live in another dimension, but I can't go on a school trip to Germany. You can absolutely go, Charlotte said. Yes, Connor said, threw both hands into the air. But you have to pay for it, Charlie quickly added. Connor's hands instantly fell and his excitement deflated like a crashed hot air balloon. I'm 13. I can't afford a trip to Europe. True, but ever since we moved into Bob's house, you've been getting an allowance for help out around the house and your 14th birthday. We're here before you know it, Charlotte said, and she did the math in her head. If you add those together with a little fundraising at school, you'll be able to afford half of it, Connor said. He had already done every possible math equation in relation to any parental scenario he thought that might throw his way. So I'll be able to get there, but I won't be able to come back. Bob looked down the pamphlet and shrugged. Charlotte, what if we made him halfway? This is a really great opportunity. Besides, he's always been such a great kid. It couldn't help to treat him a little. Thanks, Bob. Mom, listen to your husband, Connor said, and gestured toward him like he was directing a plane to a terminal. Charlotte humored the idea for a moment. It's fine by me, she said. If you earn half and show us that this trip is something you really want, we'll give you the other half. Do you have a deal? Connor wiggled from all the excitement building up and said, Thank you, he said, and shook both their hands. Pleasure doing business with you. And so after 4 months of saving his allowance, birthday money, and taking part in school fundraisers, selling candy, baking goods, and hideous pottery, which Charlotte and Bob bought most of, Connor had earned his half of the trip and was ready for Germany. At the beginning of the week leading up to his departure, when Connor should have started packing, Bob walked into his bedroom with another surprise. He plopped a very old and dusty suitcase into his stepson's bed. It was brown and covered in stickers of famous locations and made Connor's room smell like feet. Bob placed his hands on his hips and proudly looked down at the suitcase. There it is, Bob said. There what is, Connor said. Is that a coffin? No, it's a suitcase I used during my Euro trip after college. Bob gently petted the side of it like it was an old dog. We had some pretty good times together. Covered a lot of ground. I thought you could use it for Germany. Connor couldn't imagine taking it overseas. He was shocked the suitcase wasn't instantly decaying like a mummy exposed to the elements after thousands of years. I don't know what to say, Bob, he said, hiding his reservations under a fake smile. He couldn't refuse it after Bob had helped him make the trip happen. No need to thank me, Bob said, although a thank you was the furthest thing from Connor's mind. Just do me a favor and get a sticker from Berlin for her. It's a she? Oh, yes, her name is Betsy, Bob said, and he had handed it out to his stepson's room. Enjoy her. Oh, almost forgot. The left buckle needs good push to lock. Just put your back into it and you'll be fine. At the end of the week, Connor discovered exactly what Bob was talking about as he struggled to shut it with the new addition of hands. After 3 good pushes that almost threw out his back, he surrendered to Betsy. Alright, maybe just 6 pairs of socks, 4 t-shirts, 5 pairs of underwear, 2 sweaters, pajamas, lucky poker chips, a toothbrush, and 1 lucky rock will be enough, Connor said. He removed the excess items from the suitcase and finished packing. He was overdue for bed, but Connor wanted to stay awake for a little while longer. He wanted to feel the excitement as long as he could. Thinking about the trip to Germany had been a great way for Connor to ignore the other thoughts he had been having lately. As he looked around the bedroom and listened to the absolute silence of the house, Connor couldn't fight off the loneliness he had been suppressing. Something was missing from his life. His sister. Connor opened his bedroom window to break the silence around him. Sycamore Drive was just as quiet as the house and did little to comfort him. He gazed up at the stars in the night sky. He wondered if Alex could see the same stars for wherever she was. Perhaps the land of stars was one of the stars he was looking at, but it hadn't been discovered yet. Wouldn't that be an uplifting discovery? That he and his sister were only separated by light years and not dimensions. When Connor couldn't stand the solitude anymore, he asked himself, I wonder if she's awake. Connor snuck down the stairs into the family room. A large golden mirror hung there on a wall and had it all to itself. It was the mirror their grandmother had given them the last time they were together. It was the single object that allowed the twins to communicate between worlds. He touched the golden frame and it started to shimmer and glow. It would glow for a few moments until Alex appeared in the mirror or returned to its normal shade if she didn't. And tonight, she didn't. She must be busy, Connor said quietly to himself. She's always so busy. When he first arrived at home from his last adventure in the fairy tale world, Connor talked to his sister in the mirror every day for a couple of hours. She told him all about the lessons their grandmother was teaching her and the magic she was learning to use. He told her about his days at school and everything he had been taught, but her stories were always much more interesting. Unfortunately, as Alex became more and more involved with the fairy tale world, the twins' daily conversations happened less and less often. Sometimes more than a week passed before they spoke. Sometimes Connor wondered if Alex even needed him anymore. He always known that one day they would grow up and lead separate lives. He just never imagined it would happen so soon. Connor touched the mirror again and waiting, hoping his sister would arrive. He didn't want to leave for Germany before having a chance to talk to her. I guess I'll have to talk to her about it when I get back, Connor said and headed to bed. Just as he reached the stairs, he heard a small voice behind him say, Connor, are you there? Connor ran back to the mirror and his heart started jumping. His sister was standing in the mirror before him. She wore a headband made of white carnations and sparkly dress the same color as the sky. She seemed cheerful, but Connor could tell she was very tired. Hey, Alex, how are you? He asked. I'm great, Alex said with a big smile. He could tell she was just as excited to see him as he was to see her. You're up late. I couldn't sleep, Connor said. Too excited, I guess. Alex scrunched her forehead. Excited about what? Before Connor said anything, Alex had answered her own question. Oh, you're leaving for Germany tomorrow, aren't you? Yes, Connor said. More like later today. It's super late here. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry, Alex said, disappointing herself for Len had slipped her mind. No worries, Connor said. He couldn't care for the slightest. He was just happy to see her. I've been busy with magic lessons and preparing for the silly fairy inaugural ball, Alex said. She rubbed her eyes. I even forgot about our birthday. Isn't that crazy? Grandma and Mother Goose made a cake and I had to ask them what it was for. It was Connor's turn to scrunch his forehead. Fairy inaugural ball? What is that? It's this big party the Fairy Council has thrown to celebrate me joining the Fairy Council, Alex said, as if we're just any old fact. That's amazing, Alex, Connor said. You're joining the Fairy Council already? You must be the youngest fairy that's ever joined. A proud and eager smile grew to her face. Yes, she said. Grandma thinks I'm ready. I'm not sure I agree with her, though. I still have so much to learn. You know how protective Grandma is. She would protect the ocean from a raindrop, Connor said. If she thinks you're ready, then you must be. I suppose, Alex said, still very unsure of herself. It's just a lot of responsibility. Being a part of the council means I'm automatically part of the Happily Ever After Assembly, which means having to give my input on so many decisions, which means so many people and creatures will look up to me for guidance. There wouldn't still be a Happily Ever Assembly if it wasn't for you, Connor reminded her. That whole world is in your debt forever after defeating the Enchantress. I wouldn't worry. Alex looked to his eyes and smiled. Thanks, Connor. His reassurance always meant more to her than anyone else. How is Grandma, by the way, Connor asked. She's good, Alex said. She misses you and Mom terribly, almost as much as I do. She's taught me so much over the past couple months. Really, Connor, you would be so impressed with some of the things I can do now. Connor laughed. Alex, I have been impressed by you since the womb. I'm sure your part of the uterus was much neater and more organized than mine. Alex laughed out loud against her will. She missed her brother's sense of humor, but she still didn't want to encourage it. Really, Connor? A uterus joke? Come on! You're lucky Mom isn't awake to hear you, she said. Is Mom doing all right? She's always very happy when she talks to me, but we both know what a great front she can put up. Connor nodded. She's doing good, actually. She misses you, but I've only caught her crying over an old photo of us together, once or twice since we got back. Mom makes her really happy. I had almost forgotten what it was like to see her so happy all the time. It's like Dad is around again. It's great to hear, Alex said. Dad would have been so excited about your Germany trip. He'd probably be going with you if he was still alive. I wish I can go. Connor looked at the clock. Speaking of which, I better get to bed soon. I leave for the airport in like 3 hours. Alex's face fell. Oh, that's too bad. I missed you so much. And it's great to catch up, she said. I've just been so busy. Sometimes a whole week will pass and I feel like it's only a day or two. You're still happy though, right? He looked at her with a raised eyebrow. He would know if she was lying to him. Alex thought about her lessons, all her tasks, and despite how overwhelmed and tired she was, she told him the truth. Honestly, I've never been happier. I get up every morning with a smile on my face because living here is like waking up to a dream that never ends. The twins shared a smile, each knowing this was the truth. As hard as it was to be without her, Connor knew Alex was where she belonged and was having the time of her life. I wish there was a way I could take you to Germany with me, Connor said. Me too, Alex said. But I doubt there's a story the brothers Grimm wrote that we haven't heard from Grandma or Dad. Wait a second. Her eyes fell to the bottom of the mirror. Is the right side of your mirror frame loose? Connor expected a corner. No, but wait. I think the left side is. Can you gently pull it back under and uncover the corner of the glass? Alex asked, and she did the same on her side. Check. Oh, good. Now can you gently chip off a piece without cracking? Clink. Connor held up the glass bigger than the palm of his hand. Like this? Clink. Alex broke off a piece of the mirror of her own. It was a smaller and neater piece than her brother's, but neither commented on that. Perfect. Now look into it. Alex looked down onto hers. Connor looked into the small piece of the mirror in his hand and saw his sister's face staring up at him. Amazing, he said with a laugh. Now I can keep you in pocket the whole time. It's like video chat. Terrific, Alex said. I've always wanted to see Europe. Now I'll go get some rest. You don't want to be exhausted before you get to Germany. Okay. Good night, Alex, Connor said. I'll call you or reflect you, rather, as soon as I get off the plane. I look forward to it, Alex said. So pleased she would be a part of his trip. I love you, Connor. I love you too, Alex, Connor said. And with that, the twins faded from each other's mirrors and returned to their separate lives. Connor climbed the stairs and placed the piece of the mirror gently into his sticker-covered suitcase. He lay in bed and closed his eyes tightly, but couldn't fall asleep. Seeing his sister had rejuvenated him completely, causing all the excitement about the following day to come rushing back. He laughed at himself and lay there. Ran a magical goose, climbed a giant beanstalk, swam to a enchanted underwater cave on a sea turtle's back, and sailed on a flying ship across the skies of another dimension. Connor listed to himself. But I'm excited about getting on a plane tomorrow. Oh, brother. Alright, that is the end of Chapter 1. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more of the Land of Stories of Grimm Warning and more books to come. Also, if you have any good suggestions for me later on, don't forget to comment below for future reading ideas. But overall, I hope you all had a wonderful day and enjoyed the reading.